Welcome to Tech to Tech presented by KYZEN, where we will explore common cleaning questions and answers. Let's get started. I would like to introduce KYZEN's own Joe McChesney.
Good morning, and thanks for joining our Tech to Tech session today. Today we're going to address the recent changes enacted by the EPA under the Toxic Substance Control Act for methylene chloride. So with that, let's get started. For all practical purposes, methylene chloride's use as a vapor degreasing solvent is gone. If you look at the old traditional solvents that the EPA is slowly banning or phasing out, there's a virtual graveyard of these. Most recent is methylene chloride. You're probably aware that the EPA has been reviewing several different solvents. Most of them are the older generation solvents, such as trichloroethylene, perchloroethylene, methylene chloride, N-propylbromine, and N-methylpyrrolidone under the Toxic Substance Control Act, better known as TSCA. With that, methylene chloride will be prohibited for most uses by 2026. So give you a little bit of past history. Although these solvents are being reviewed numerous times by different groups and scientists, the last risk evaluation for methylene chloride going into the final report was issued in October 2022. This is a copy of that document. If you fast forward to April of this year, methylene chloride final rule was issued by the EPA under this document number. And what did that final rule consist of? Well, methylene chloride, commonly referred to as MC, it's also called dichloromethane or DCM. It's used in a variety of consumer and commercial applications. There's a lot of vapor degreasing and flushing applications used with this solvent. And when did this occur? Again, in April 24 of this year, EPA issued a final rule regulating methylene chloride under the TSCA Act. And why? Because it needs to protect human health from risks such as neurotoxicity effect and cancer from inhalation or dermal exposure. And who is affected? Anyone that manufactures, imports, processes, distributes, uses, or disposes of methylene chloride or products containing methylene chloride will be impacted by the EPA's regulation of this chemical. It basically is banned from all future uses with the exception of some military applications. Use of this substance presents unreasonable risk to human health. These are exact words that's in the EPA documents. And what is meant by unreasonable risk to human health? Well, we breathe a lot of air, and operators that are around the machines breathe a lot of air. And the first basic exposure route is inhalation. If you breathe more than OSHA allows, then you're basically being exposed to excessive amounts of chemical. The second route is skin absorption. If you're not wearing the proper personal protection equipment and you touch the parts and solvent is either draining out of the parts or you're exposed to the solvent by absorption, this goes into your body. And the least likely route is ingestion. It is possible, but most people will not do this. What are the key dates for the distribution of methylene chloride for consumer use? And it is prohibited after May the 5th of 2025. That's not far away. Most commercial uses are prohibited after April 28th of 2026. They're given a grace period for you to find alternate replacements for the use of this solvent. However, in October of 2024, which is just a few months away, you must amend all your documents and records, especially the SDS sheets, for the operator's knowledge. And by December of 2024, for processors and distributors must furnish this document to any users that continue to use this solvent until the sunset date. You have time to consider what changes will occur, but change is going to happen. So you need to be making your plans because the sunset dates are firm and the EPA clock is ticking. The EH&S concerns and compliance must come first for your operators' safety. And how will change affect production? If you change to another solvent or another process, what will that do to your production? And the total operational cost must be considered. Methylene chloride was a fairly inexpensive solvent and being used for a lot of different applications, but non-compliance is not an option. It is going to be discontinued, and any uses after that, you won't be able to get the solvent, but fines and litigation may occur. So how do you future-proof your cleaning option? There are ways to do this. There's 3 viable options in my opinion. Number 1, alternative solvent. If you have a modern vapor degreaser that is solvent conservative, you basically could consider taking the methylene chloride out and replacing it with a more environmentally friendly solvent. Those are available on the market today. Another option would be that if you must use solvent and you want to replace your existing older machine as well as the chemical being used, vacuum degreasing technology offers a totally sealed environment with solvent that is not currently being regulated in regards to sustainability and offers the lowest cost of operation per piece. And an alternate process, if you want to exit solvent altogether, is an aqueous process. This entails different routes of investigation because you must look at your compatibility of your soils, your chemistry, probably new equipment would have to be purchased, new PPAPs arranged, etc. So I tell everybody to use the funnel. Identify the traditional solvents to be replaced and what time frame they have to be replaced in. With methylene chloride, this time frame is firmly established by the EPA. You identify the potential replacement candidates or process. There are several solvents out on the market. You start looking for the best one that suits your application, that matches your production and your EH&S criteria. You confirm the green properties and regulatory approvals. You do not want to jump from one solvent to another solvent and basically find that solvent has to be replaced in the near future. You want to match the performance to production requirements. If it takes much longer for the alternate solvent to clean the parts or it's not effective on some of your soils, you may be better off looking at a different solvent. You want to evaluate the long-term future sustainability. As previously stated, you do not want to go from one solvent to another solvent or to a process that's not going to benefit your company in the long run. Importantly, to determine the true operational cost. Don't look only at the cost of the materials, but look at the cost of the waste disposal, the cost of replacing any equipment, environmental standards, etc. And you need to confirm local regulation compliance because not only the federal, but state and some locals have different concepts that you must comply with in order to use a certain chemistry. Once you use the funnel to get to these points, you implement the conversion. That is basically, and I recommend that you thoroughly test any opportunities to do the conversion prior to actually implementing it into your production facility. Now you have your final selection that will help you gain environmental compliance and meet your production needs. Again, find the right fit. The cost of compliance, the cost to change the process, the cost of quality, and the cost of operations. All of these are important factors that need to be looked at as you make your change. And remember, the EPA clock is ticking. So in conclusion, while any future forecast is uncertain, the move to phase out several solvents is certain and underway now. Help is available. There's several sources you can go to, such as the equipment suppliers, solvent suppliers, consultants. Actually, the government has a lot of technical documents that will help you out. So, as we get questions asked to us in regard to solvent replacement systems, I often have a number of questions that I find to be general from most manufacturers. If my company elects to use solvent degreasing by necessity or choice, what solvent process do you consider best for long-term future? While open-top degreasers are a necessity in certain respects for certain applications, the long-term future of solvent degreasing is vacuum technology. That's my personal opinion. It is isolated, it is sealed, it uses very little solvent, it has flexibility, and basically for the user that must use solvent, where aqueous will not work, vacuum degreasing offers cleaning for complex configurations, as well as drying on the parts, no drag out. Second question, where can I find the latest information on existing solvents regulatory status? EPA and OSHA both have excellent documents. Source their sites, use the product name that your existing solvent has, such as methylene chloride or trichloroethylene or perchloroethylene. Use the CAS number to pull up the documents that refer to that solvent and provide those guidelines. Third question, will degreaser operators and any other personnel in the vicinity be subject to new recommended exposure limits? The answer is yes. All operators, as well as occupational non-users, which means personnel in the facility, will be subject to the new exposure limits. These exposure limits are covered by the EPA under the ECEL, Existing Chemistry Exposure Limits Guidelines, and must be complied with. Last question is, what is the expected date when new regulations will become law? Well, for methylene chloride, that's easy. Those dates are set in stone. They basically, in 2024, the official notice has gone out. You have certain qualifications to meet the SDS and chemical notification list and how you do your documentation. In 2025, it will no longer be available for sale by distributors, with 2026 being the final date for use. You have time to convert, but I recommend you slowly start looking at your options and convert as fast as you possibly can. And with that, I'll turn it back over to William, and thank you for your time today.
Thanks, Joe. Thank you guys for tuning into this Tech to Tech session. If you would like to discuss this topic further or have any questions not answered in the session, please contact your local KYZEN regional manager or send an email to tech@kyzen.com, and we will have someone follow up with you as soon as possible. And if you like this video, be sure to follow us on our social media platforms for more expert cleaning content.